Yeah, so again, thanks Tony, thank you. For the, oh, sweet, cool. So yeah, as it says, my name is, cool. So my name is Emmanuel, you can call me E-Man, so yeah, I've never really done one of these kinds of talks before, but it's a really cool opportunity because, yeah, it got me thinking about how like 10 years ago I was in high school and I was like, oh god, that's 10 years ago. So in the beginning, so where am I from? I am from Boston, Massachusetts. Anybody hockey fans here? Hockey fans? No? Yeah, sure. Apparently they're not in the playoffs as of yesterday, but I don't care. Go for it. Yeah, so I'm originally from the States, Boston, Massachusetts. The colors here represent the colors of the flag of Colombia in South America. My parents, my family is all from South America, but right after they moved to Boston, I was born and raised there. So in the beginning, so in the sense my career in what I'm doing now, which I'll describe in a little bit, started early. I was essentially, I think you guys were born around, what, 97, 98 maybe? Yeah, so 1998, I had no idea what the universe meant. And this thing was in the sky. I don't know if the older people remember Comet Hale-Bopp. It was a really prominent comet that was around in that time, 1997, 1998. And so I saw this and I was like, whoa, that's awesome, what is that? But at the same time, it just kind of got me slightly into astronomy. I was really intrigued. I thought it was very beautiful. I had no idea what it was. And I just kind of slowly built my way, I guess, in my life so far towards what I'm doing now. So when I get to high school was really a funny time. But I really enjoyed it. Made good friends, was really involved. But as it says down here, I wasn't really involved in science as much as, I guess, a lot of people like to think when they meet like a scientist or whoever. I mean, everyone has their own path, and mine was very much just, hey, I think it's cool, but that was really it at the time. I took some basic math courses, those kinds of things, but I wasn't really as engaged in the sciences back then, where you guys are now. But I was pretty involved in other things. I was a part of various clubs. I was heavily involved in music even now, so here I am geeking out on the saxophone, and here's I had a band in high school. I was very much heavily involved in other things that I really do passionately enjoy. And as it says here, I was okay in math. You know, I took kind of the basic geometry, trigonometry stuff. And I took one physics course at the very end of high school. That's kind of solely what got me into actually studying it when I went to college. So, when I was in college, this is when I really started getting into science in general, just the particulars, like Tony was talking about, the particulars of physics. That always really interested me because the idea of understanding what's around us, you know, we use physics every single second, right? I see people using their smartphones taking pictures. I mean, the amount of physics that's in that device is insane. It's hundreds and hundreds of years of work by various people. So that idea is pretty sweet. And like I said, this is when I got into physics. Astronomy in particular is always kind of a first love of mine. And mathematics as well, you know, getting into kind of the higher level calculus and all that. And as it says, I was not a natural. I'm always a B plus student. But I'm proud of that because it was a lot of work. But I love the work too. And like I said, even in Penn State, I was very much involved in various clubs. Here I am in the astronomy club, checking out the galaxy, that kind of thing. You know, pretty interesting, sweet stuff that is a lot of fun. So eventually, I started doing research about halfway through college at this university, Penn State University in the heart of Pennsylvania. And I was very, very lucky. And it's a very, very funny story. You can ask me later if you want. But someone eventually offered me an opportunity to work at a NASA facility. There's a NASA facility just outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland called Goddard Space Flight Center. And if you ask me then, hey, do you ever think you'll work at NASA? I say, yeah, probably not, you know. But again, this was a very kind of funny situation where someone was like, hey, you're here, do you want to work at NASA for a summer? I was like, sure, okay. And that was really kind of a really unique, crazy, cool opportunity. And it's funny, because that's how I heard about UBC, because the guy I worked with at NASA actually went and he got his PhD at the physics department. He's like, hey, are you thinking of grad school? If so, where? And I was just like, yeah, sure, I don't know. And then he mentioned, hey, do you want to go to UBC? And I'd never heard of UBC. And he's like, hey, it's in Vancouver. Where's that? Oh, hey, it's in Canada. I was like, oh, Canada. I mean, in the States. Like, from where I was, Canada, I've been to Canada when I was young. I went to Montreal and Toronto. But the idea of living in Canada was just not, it's not that I didn't want to. I was just like, oh, I can live there? Cool. So eventually I said, yeah, I'll look into applying to UBC, got in, good stuff, right? So, I started a master's degree in science, particularly in astronomy in 2010, September 2010, nearly 5 years, pretty nice. And I did the master's fully, you know, it involves like a couple of years of intense course load, you do a lot of teaching too, being a TA for various college courses. And a couple years later, I wrote my master's thesis, kind of a big long paper about what I worked on. And I started the PhD in 2012. So very much still a PhD student. Hopefully we'll be done next year, maybe the year after. I really like Vancouver, so I might try to stay here a little longer. But at the same time, it'd be nice to get a real job, make real money. So, all right. So what do I do exactly? Have you guys ever heard of pulsars? Anybody? A few? Sweet. So let's see if this is going to work. There we go. So for those who don't know what a pulsar is, a pulsar are these neutron stars. If you take the sun, right, it's very big. So if you take the sun and squish it down to the size of Vancouver, right, if you think of how large the Earth is hundreds of thousands of miles across, right? The sun is even larger than that. But a neutron star is 10 kilometers, but it has as much stuff as the sun. So if you take the sun and just squish it down to that size, you can fit 1,000 of these in the Earth, but each one of these is essentially a sun. Pretty intense stuff. It sounds like science fiction, not real, but it's totally real, and I studied these guys. It's pretty sweet. So the idea is that there are these neutron stars in space, very far away, you know, just typical stars. Oh, sorry. Typical stars, far away. Okay, here we go again. And, forget it. Okay, cool. So these things spin really fast. They have a lot of names. We give them a lot of names. But the idea is that you can think of these as lighthouses, cosmic lighthouses. There are these stars that, for reasons we don't fully understand, they emit these beams of light along their magnetic north and south poles, and they rotate really fast. And so even though these things are, the stars themselves are super tiny, we can't actually see the stars physically like we see the sun and all that. If the light's pointed at us at the right time, we'll be able to see these blips here. So you kind of see like this sort of distant lighthouse, but in space. And so the idea is that I love this because it is very much astronomy. I'm studying stars using really cool telescopes, working with great people. But, you know, this is very much frontier physics. I mean, because you have such an extreme object in space, this is the closest you can get before you get to a black hole, essentially. So the physics is really extreme. You're talking about, you know, the inner workings of nature at the scales of gravity, or even quantum mechanics, where, you know, where science gets really weird. And so you really do, the kind of things that I get to work on or hear what people are working on are really, really cool things regarding that. And I'll describe a little bit more in a second. So I get to use some cool machines. So as an astronomer, I use telescopes to collect my data. Here I am in 2012, I think, 3 years ago, using the Green Bank telescope in West Virginia. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. It's a 100-meter single dish telescope. It's in the distance here, this white thing. It's really, really big though. And here I am, you know, running some software to collect some data. I'm using Facebook even. And then last year, I was really fortunate enough to go to Puerto Rico in Arecibo. There's this massive, massive telescope called the Arecibo Observatory. I don't know, has anyone ever seen a James Bond film? Have you guys seen GoldenEye at all? Yeah, okay. So this one is heavily used in movies. It's actually 300 meters in diameter, so you can actually fit all of BC Place, like the actual stadium. It's really big. But again, so it's really cool, cutting-edge stuff that I'm very, very lucky to get to work with. And I work with really cool people. So a lot of these people here are friends and collaborators of mine. Mostly people working in the United States, or North America, the United States and Canada. But I have a big, and we're called the NanoDraft Collaboration because we're studying gravity using pulsars. And we have a very large international group too. I couldn't find a picture for those guys, but it's a lot of people for sure. And the basic idea, like I said, is that studying pulsars by themselves, these little dots here emitting light, are pulsars. But the idea here is that you know, they're useful for so many different things that involve really cutting-edge fundamental aspects of physics. And what we want to do is to see gravity, essentially. I don't know if you guys remember the title of my talk, but it says "Seeing Gravity in the Invisible Universe." The punchline, you know, for modern astronomers is that you think of the whole universe that we're aware of, that we know that it exists. Well, we actually only understand 5% of it, because the other 95 is dark matter, dark energy. Have you guys heard those terms, dark matter, dark energy? So the idea is that there's this universe out there that's entirely invisible. We know it's there, we don't know what it is. And through various details that I can't really get into because it takes forever, pulsars actually can provide a way of seeing that 95% by studying what's called gravitational waves, right? So if you think of tossing a stone in a pond, you know, the stone goes into the water and these waves propagate out, right? So if a black hole, a very distant supermassive black hole is passing through space, it actually causes these ripples, but in space and time, called gravitational waves. And so by studying a bunch of pulsars in space, we get to hopefully one day, very soon in the next few years, see gravity. Okay, so I guess we just about out of time. But one last thing is that, alright, so I do a lot of research, like I said, and I do a lot of teaching. I'm a TA, so I do, that's pretty heavy stuff, but at the same time, I enjoy this. I like talking with you guys. I actually do a lot of outreach activities in the lab over, just in the next room. The Michael Smith Lab is a really cool building for a lot of really great scientific research. There's a lot of laboratories, so I get to work with some really cool people to help, have kids come in high school and elementary school and just chat with them and do some fun activities. One thing though that I would like to talk about, because I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking about UBC or university at some point, right? And so, through the Department of Physics, I've been able to get involved with a lot of outreach, fun stuff that involves science. One thing I never, when I was 10 years old, didn't know what astronomy was. Didn't think I'd ever be an astronomer. When I was your age, 16, 17, 18, I didn't even think I could go to college. When I was 21, I was like, I'm never going to work at NASA. And then one thing I never thought I'd ever do is give a TEDx talk, and I did. At UBC, there's a really cool opportunity for students, if you guys, undergrads or graduates, if you guys are involved in some kind of research, or if you have some topic that you're really passionate about, you guys are actually able to, put forth these things and contribute to the TEDx series here at UBC. And so I did that a couple of years ago about this stuff, mainly the particulars of what I do. And it was just a really amazing opportunity. It was a really, really sweet thing. And I really want to encourage you guys to consider something like this, right? There's a lot of stuff, and if anything, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on, things that you can get involved with. And like I said, there's a myth that you have to be really into it when you're like 9. Or whatever you want to do, whether it's English or science or whatever. And that's not true. Like I said, I didn't even know what calculus was. I thought computer programming was like typing a really long Word document, right? When I was like 12, right? So you learn things as you go on, and so there's never too late of a time to start these things. There's various friends and colleagues of mine who are in their 40s who are doing what I'm doing now. I mean, people have their life paths, right? And so if there's something that interests you, pursue it. And just cheesy thing. But anyhow, I really want to thank you guys for the opportunity. If you guys have questions, I will be here, I suppose. And thank you guys.